Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation. I'm Manny Diaz. Here this week on Big Country Politics, we are speaking to Erin Stamey. She is the Taylor County First Assistant Criminal District Attorney. She's running for Taylor County District Attorney. She's throwing her name in the ring here. God bless you for that. But first and foremost, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thanks for having me. It's a real honor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Tell us, before we kind of, unpack a lot of different things, because we have a lot to talk about, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in a small town south of Wichita Falls called Scotland, Texas. But I went to high school in Windthorst, which may be a little more knowledgeable.
The Trojans.
Yes, we're knowledgeable in this area. And I'm the youngest of 8. My parents are still alive, and they just recently moved into a home in Wichita Falls. But and all my siblings are still in Texas at this time, so that's pretty cool. We're all pretty close. I went to law school at Texas Tech, went to undergrad and law school at Texas Tech, graduated in 2002. I spent my first year out of law school at the Eastland Court of Appeals as a staff attorney or briefing attorney, and then went to Ellis County as a prosecutor, misdemeanor prosecutor for a short period of time, and then went back to the Court of Appeals as a staff attorney after I got married. So.
What would you say kind of core values in your upbringing have allowed you to guide you in what you do in the judicial system today?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer when I was in junior high, and I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor. The other side of the law wasn't really fascinating to me. But of course, my parents have a very strong work ethic, and we learned a lot of teamwork as together to do those things. But I've always just been fascinated with the law and with the whole system as a whole, and it still fascinates me. The law you go to law school to learn how to interpret the law, not necessarily to learn the law, because it's always changing, and so that's really, it's always something new to learn every day.
Tell me about you've handled some of the region's most complex and sensitive cases. What principles guide you in your decision making when dealing with some of these high stakes prosecutions?
Well, I think that you get a case that is important to, an assault family violence is important to that victim just as much as a murder case is important to the victim and that family. And so I think that when you get one of those cases that, we call high profile, that the community is invested in, you have to be a little more diligent in what you do and the transparency of that case. But you're still going to prosecute it the exact same way as you would any other case. But the Jeff Force case was one of my biggest, the first biggest one I had. It was several. We tried it 2018, I want to say, 2019 possibly. No, I'm thinking about it. But it was 2016. It was set to go to trial. On the day of the trial, he had fled to Mexico.
Wow.
And so we had the help of the U.S. Marshal's Office putting him on the most wanted list, and then was able to get a tip and catch him in Mexico. And they were instrumental in getting him back, and then we tried that case. It was a sexual assault that was a delayed outcry, aggravated sexual assault with a child younger than 14 that had gone on for many, many years. And there was actually 5 additional victims that we put on that case.
Gosh.
So he got a life sentence, and that was a real good victory, and had a lot of cooperation across the board.
Whenever you hear of these drug charges that are killing people, or they're putting poison on the streets, or people are basically taking advantage of children, older people, how do you personally separate yourself from that, and essentially just be attorney at law, to where you're trying to essentially put the law in place? Or is that difficult to do at that point?
Right. When you have a victim that you can't necessarily get personally attached, but you still have to be able to reach them, and understand that you're on their side and be their voice. So sometimes you can get really invested in a case and it's hard to separate yourself out from that. But most of the time you do a case as the law is the law and the facts are the facts, and you present it to the jury and you hope for the best. But I've always told victims, I can't guarantee you this verdict, but I'm gonna tell your story. I'm gonna present it the best way I can, and so we've been really successful with that, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of my trial record.
Yeah. I imagine just like a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball knows his starting record or what's your trial record?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you what my trial record is, but I know my husband was joking when I moved from misdemeanor to felony at Taylor County and the number of trials I had, and he would tell people that I was bowl eligible. So that tells you a little bit about his mindset. But
yeah, I like that.
So I've most of my big cases I've been successful with.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more with Erin Stamey, candidate for Taylor County District Attorney, talking her top priorities and what justice means to her. That and more. Come back.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Last year we did a special on fentanyl and the dangers of that, and certainly it's how our country consumes that and what have you, and it's horrible to see the aftermath of what fentanyl is capable of. Tell me what has that been like, prosecuting here in Taylor County since you've been in this position?
We have a few cases pending that are murder cases with the new fentanyl murder. And we haven't had any that have gone to a jury trial yet, but they have, and they work those cases because to be able to prove that this is the drugs that were sold at that time that they took that caused the death. And so they have to work really hard at getting that, and it usually comes through their phone downloads and text messages or social media and that kind of thing. And so not a lot of those cases can be prosecuted if they can't prove where they got those drugs from. But if we do, when we have that case, it's a case where you want to give them justice for the fentanyl, for the death, but at the same time you have a drug user as your victim. And we have to sometimes address that with the jury.
What inspired you to run for this seat? You're now currently the first assistant criminal district attorney. Mr.
Hicks has really kind of mentored me to take over. I think when he's done, and he's done, and or will be when his term is up. And so he's really pushed me in that regard and to continue the work that he's done in his office. So it's not necessarily something that when I started, I thought that I would end up doing, but I really feel like I've come into that role. Started out with being a misdemeanor chief and then moved into the first assistant role. So I've learned a lot of leadership, and I actually thought that leadership kind of came a little more naturally to me than I thought. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a good ride, and he's been a great mentor, and I'm excited to carry on what he started.
If elected, what would you say some of your top priorities that you would like to tackle when you enter office? If or when you enter office.
I think that we are seeing, I'm hoping, a pendulum swing change for the law enforcement and prosecutors. We kind of had where we were not respected, and you see even we don't have as many young people come into prosecution. So I want to work on that with the law enforcement and get the respect of that office and law enforcement back. And I can do that with transparency and certainly educating the public and educating your law enforcement on rights and things of those things. There's another thing that I like to focus on is technology. We are coming into some AI and some the criminal justice system is always behind the digital world, and we have to catch up. And I think we're behind, and we need to play some catch up, and that's going to take a little bit of work in learning what kind of AI, how that could be used properly in the criminal justice system, and then always to address drugs, the rehabilitation issues, because I told you almost all drug and alcohol are underlying issues in a criminal case. So if you can address those issues either through rehabilitation or getting the dealers off the streets, those are the things, my big things.
I want to ask you this. Certainly the vision for the future. How do you plan to address issues like recidivism, overcrowded dockets, while maintaining justice for victims?
That's a good question. It's a tough question because, COVID, we kind of got pushed back with COVID on the dockets. We are really doing better there. We have some issues we had issues with the defense bar and not having enough attorneys, and now we have the public defender's office. And so we're playing a little bit of catch up in regards to that, but we work hard to resolve our cases the best way we can, and there's cases that have to be tried, and so we just got to get in there and try them, and there are cases that maybe don't need to be tried, and we're going to resolve those. But as far as recidivism, we got to address the drug issue.
Yeah, is that the biggest issue you would say?
I think so. For recidivism, yes.
How do we get past that?
I don't know. When did they start the
$1
war on drugs back in the 80s and the Reagan's time? And it changes, it changes from we had, cocaine, and then you had methamphetamine, and now you've got the fentanyl and the drugs, the pills. And so it's a changing thing. And I don't know that's something we can address. We can get them the rehab that they need, but it's also going to be the people that want to make their change in their life.
Tell me, as we kind of begin to land the plane here, how would you improve or continue to uphold public trust in the justice system here in Taylor County?
I think definitely education. Sometimes I even my family and just say, well, what do you do? What is this? And I'm like, how can you not know? And so I think education is important, and through jury service, people come and this is next to voting, jury service is your greatest public service you can do. And so I think it's important as a community, and we have really good turnouts, but that's something that I would promote. Transparency, working with the media, with you guys, and telling you, informing you of what is happening in each of the cases that the public is concerned about.
Sure.
I think is important. And that if we have that, I think it will continue that trust that we have in this community.
What would you say, what does justice mean? If you could put it in one sentence, what does that mean?
I think it's you have to ensure the rights of each party in a case, the defendant as well as the victim, as well as the state, to uphold the rule of the law. And it's not always about prison time. It's not always about, let's find the best resolution for both sides. And really, in a lot of cases, there's no winners, in a murder case, for instance, both families are devastated, and their lives have changed, and they'll never come back. And so you think that you have to be able to address those issues as a community, and that's what you should do in the justice system.
Yeah. Well, Erin, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's a new and challenging area for me to be a spokesperson. So,
well, Erin, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Alrighty. For Erin Stamey, she is the first Assistant Criminal District Attorney of Taylor County. She is a candidate running for Taylor County District Attorney. I'm Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.